Well, a warm welcome to everybody who joined us for today's Change Does Matter forum. We have 45 minutes in Central European time around your lunchtime. For some of you, it's a little bit earlier. For some of you, it's a little bit later. But let's make these precious 45 minutes really work for us. So, my first question to you, maybe a rhetorical question, maybe you would be nodding for each of and every of these little statements. Have you ever felt that you sensed the urgency, but no one else around you did? You might be working within an organization or as a consultant outside, but somehow it was just not clicking. The others did not see the fire. Or have you ever tried to really push that alarm button, but people just looked blank and they politely nodded but didn't move a finger? You might have experienced that. I have, I can tell it to you. Or maybe you have felt alone because you were ready to make a change, but people just wanted to go on with business as usual. Or in case you have waited for a long time and you were wondering whether you should really push or just let it go, you were asking yourself that question. Then I believe that today's forum is the right platform for you to connect with like minded people and myself to explore what we can do when the organization that we are working with does not see the urgency. They are not ready for what needs to be done, but you want to ignite change. Now, let's start with a poll. And in the chat, I already shared with you a link, just in case I put that into the chat again. I would like to invite you to tell us a little bit about your experience of really living and seeing the urgency for a change and what happens next for you when you see the need for change, you see the urgency. What happens to you normally? Do you keep pushing because someone has to and you will be the maverick to make it happen? Do you take a step back and wait to see someone else taking the steps forward? Do you drop a hint and see whether it sticks? Do you sometimes feel stuck and frustrated? Or you have a different reaction to seeing the urgency? So I've got 50-50% for I drop a hint and test the waters. So you might play a little bit safer, but see who can be your alliance before jumping the gun and really steering the boat in a way that you cannot. Thank you for the comment. We'll lead by example and just do it, as one reaction that I received in the chat. I'm glad to see that you can resonate with some of these because I believe it's human reaction to save ourselves from disappointment, but also see what change we can ignite. And I don't know exactly which kind of cultures you are operating in, but I'm certain that some of you will be pushing, some of you will test the water, and some of you will find a way to find the right leaders to advocate for the change you would like to see. So, where this might come from, you right now might see the shift that needs to happen in your organization. We talk so much about AI, but a couple of years ago, that was replaced with blockchain and agility and all of those trendy words. There are so many changes happening in the world, and we see that our organization has to shift to be able to move on. You might see a risk that really puts at peril the people you work with and your mission, your organizational mission. Or you might see a great opportunity that you want to bring into your teams. Yet, what you might experience is that as you try to get people on board, they might be busy, they might be just not convinced, and maybe they are not ready. It's not an exhaustive list, but it's normal that for some people it takes longer to engage in an idea and get ready for the change we would like to see in the world. Now, my take on this is that when we see the wave of change, and some people are still on the shore, it automatically would invite us to push them, get out, it's dangerous. But if we invite them to come along, then they will stay with us in the change. And for that reason, sometimes we do have to practice patience and see how we can bring value to the people to really share that urgency for the shift we would like to see in the workplace. Now, for today, the outlook would be very simple. I would like to share with you some insights into why urgency sometimes is one-sided. People don't see it, even though it's so clear to us. I'd like to provide a space where we can share and learn from each other. And I'm already giving you a heads up. Yes, I will have one breakout room. It will not be a long breakout exercise, but from the feedback I've been receiving for over 2.5 years in these forums is that people enjoy connecting with others and taking a little time to share as well with one another. And at the end of the forum, I would like to share with you a checklist, a practical tool. I'm certain some of those 10 ideas, 10 tips I'm going to share with you, you have tried already. But I trust that there will be a couple in that list that you can ponder about and see how you can bring back to your workplace. Again, this is not a webinar, so I'm not going to lecture you. I really would like to invite to have a connection, really reflect together and see what action we would like to take. Given the size of the forum we have today, I believe we can have that really enriching and interactive dialogue. Let's jump into that. So you might be wondering who is talking on the other side of the virtual platform. Well, I'm Margit Takacs. I'm a change management consultant, author, a coach, a trainer. I've got lots of experience, and I hope the numbers there, as well as my LinkedIn profile, where most of us are already connected, tell you why I believe I can be the right facilitator for us to guide the discussion about what to do when we feel ready, but our organization isn't. It is a pleasure to connect with you here today. So let's jump into that. So I'd like to share with you a case study of a continuous improvement culture initiative I was involved in before. It actually has happened in two organizations where I was in charge of helping them create a different culture. And in order to do that, I noted a couple of pitfalls that I did fall into and many people around me. First of all, a lot of organizations go for cost cuts, they restructure, but they save money only temporarily because people, all of us, go back to old behaviors unless we see the need for change. I worked on continuous improvement culture as a transformational program in two industries, in two multinational companies. And with this short case study, I'd like to share with you what is it that happened on the journey. First of all, we looked at introducing Lean, Six Sigma, Gemba walks. Those of you who are familiar with continuous improvement, you know these are terminologies used in this world. But it's not just for the sake of processes in a company that you need to look at the way they work, what the processes they follow, but also to focus on what truly adds value. Wherever you work right now, you probably can think of a couple of colleagues, partners, even leaders who do things because they always used to do that. And we need to challenge what is not adding value. And it is not easy, too hard to let go. In reorganizations, we have a basis to flatline and streamline many things, but very often those non-added value activities stay there that take time, which of course cost money. So the leaders will not be happy because they won't see a sustainable improvement in their world. Even if you are not familiar with the terms that I just shared with you, the idea is simple. It's about reducing waste, improving the flow, and empowering people to solve their problems themselves. That is continuous improvement, simply put. Before that, both organizations had gone through those cost cutting and reorganized. New leaders were appointed, and yes, they saved money temporarily, but people wanted to be left alone after those reorganizations. So we did come up with a roadmap for change. But while we saw the long-term benefits of not just reorganization and cutting the non-added value activities, but also making people accept the new ways of working, we realized that the leaders really wanted quick wins. They wanted to see the numbers. And until people came on board, That was not to happen. Probably you've experienced that when people are just until here, they are super tired of the changes and they want to be left alone. For them, it was, for the leaders, it was all about results, results, results. But continuous improvement was still seen as a nice to have, something to revisit later. So even when we demonstrated small initiatives, consistent improvements, the interest was just not there. The organization in both industries was not ready to see beyond the reorganization, beyond the temporary bandages, so to speak. We were ready to move, but the organization wasn't, and momentum did faded, and we were wondering what to do. Now, this happened to me, not exactly the same way in two organizations. And I have consulted leaders who, in their industries, had similar challenges, maybe not continuous improvement, but challenges of changing the culture, the ways of working. Whilst they were ready, the people around them were not. So I have a question to you. Knowing what you know about these change of creating that continuous improvement culture, what would you have done differently at this point? I would like to invite you to write into the chat. What would you have done differently at this point? Cost cuttings took place. Reorganization, reshuffling of teams and department was done. Quick wins were shown. We had a roadmap, but people wanted leaders, wanted, simply put, results, results, results in money, but we're not ready to do more. And people were really tired, fatigued of all the transformation they had to go through. So I got a comment already in the chat, and I encourage all of you to write your ideas in. Paul says, make sure that individuals feel a sense of psychological safety with the changes proposed to take place. Well, it is very true. Psychological safety is a topic, fortunately, in the forefront of lots of leaders. How can they create a safe environment for people to share their doubts and not feel there will be negative consequences to it? I believe Paul could be a great resource to share a couple of practical tips as well on how to create that environment. So Paul, if you like, feel free to share in the chat. Eloise says that great leadership is needed to explain benefits of continuous improvement. Very well put, Eloise. Well, if the leaders are not active and visible and they don't talk about the why, the real benefits, likely less people are going to buy in for it, especially when they are so fatigued already with all the transformation. Strategic change, analyze the stakeholders could be a great way forward. Thank you, Mario, for that comment. Exactly. If we don't know who are in our stakeholder map, who are the social and structural influencers, it will be harder to push the buttons. Thank you for your contribution, Mario. Eva shares that these organizations were not ready for the changes, change readiness to be done. I love it, Eva. And exactly that's what we're going to talk about that. We need to see where they are in terms of change readiness. Out in the world, in brilliant resources from ACMP, Association of Change Management Professionals, or CMI, Change Management Institute, you can download a lot of change maturity assessments that might help. In today's call forum, I'd like to share with you the 5 levels that I often use to explain change readiness, but feel free to dig deeper into different assessments. Thank you, Eva. And Dominic shares that stakeholder management and engagement needed, not to give up, right, Dominic? Because with clear communication, we can find out what holds people back. Thank you for the comments and contributions. So retrospectively, I learn as well, and I admit the mistakes I have made. Let's just recap it. The starting point was that there were short-term cost-cutting initiatives, and so many of my clients really go for that because they want to quickly put a band-aid on the issues they have. Leaders wanted to see the savings, and I cannot blame them. They are under a lot of pressure as well, but no real shift happened in the way people worked. So we could see that it hasn't stuck yet. People were not ready for it. Now the slow down habit, because we are creatures of habits and they can come back. We continue doing those non-added value activities we've always done because we are feeling at ease about it. And in all fairness, continuous improvement, or CI, as often we abbreviate it, is seen as optional. We've already done the hard work. We've reshuffled the teams, the departments. We let people go. But there is no ownership for actually looking at sustainable ways of working. So going back to Eva's brilliant comment in the chat, it's all about readiness. When it comes to readiness, of course, we go through the emotional cycle of change we so often talk about in the Change Does Matter webinars. But there's a kind of continuum which shows us how, with time, commitment and readiness changes. The little speech bubbles might be small, but allow me to explain to them how they come. So number one is when we create awareness for the change, when people say, yes, I've heard about that tool or continuous improvement, people know, Mario, Paul, Eva, Eloise, you're doing something, I heard. That's the first level of awareness. The second level of awareness is when they can explain it and believe it. It happens so often that after the town halls, newsletters, one-on-ones, we feel they are able to explain it, but not just the what, the why as well, but you realize it's not really clear. And until we are on the same page about what needs to happen, for example, with continuous improvement, culture change, people will just go in all sorts of directions. The third level is when people are open to trying it. That's what we call acceptance. Yeah, okay, Eva, you want continuous improvement in your organization? I accept it, so I give it a try. It's not yet full commitment, but they give us a chance. And the fourth one is commitment. That's, oh gosh, I would love to see that as soon as possible. And I'm sure you as well. When they say, count me and I'm fully on board, let's do what's required to move this forward. And there is a fifth level of change readiness, which is endorsement. When people say, I will motivate and encourage others to do what's required. I see a great comment in the chat from Stella who says, we need to get people involved, make them feel not subjected to changes created by others, but rather co-created. So beautifully put, because if we impose the change on them, they are going to reject it. We need to see how much needs to happen. It's usually not the Federal Republic of Companies. So what needs to happen for the thriving of an organization, and see how we can co-create the path, just as Stella suggested. Thank you for that comment. So if you think about it, awareness, understanding, acceptance, commitment, and endorsement, there are lots of things we can do. Awareness is all about communicating, and sometimes it's one way, sometimes it's two-way communication. Understanding is when you have a dialogue with them and you even ask them, so what are we going to do? And why are we going to do it? Acceptance is when they say, Paul, Mario, Eloise, yeah, let's give it a try. And commitment, it's when Stella and Dominic, people will say, come, I want to do this with you. And endorsement is when they feel they are ready to be the spokesperson for any initiative. Now, you might ask, okay, so what did you, Margit, do for boosting readiness? I'm not saying this is the one and all answer. It was not an easy or painless process, I admit to you, in both organizations. But the first thing we did is we identified what was the senior leaders' pain points. What were the pain points? Why? Because if by shareholders or the supervisory board, they are pressured to show cost cutting, we had to understand that. We had to empathize with them and mobilize them. In one of my recent Change Does Matter forums, we talked about effective change leadership, and I introduced you to a tool called Influencing Model to help us mobilize them. Those of you who couldn't join the session and are interested in the tool itself, I'm happy to send it to you after this forum. We also made sure that CI, or continuous improvement, was attached to real results for the next level of the organization, so directors, managers, because the idea is good. Who would say no to continuously doing better? But they needed to see what that means tangibly to them. Those were the success stories we started, the initial savings we started to show in key performance indicators, etc., etc. We exposed time-wasting routines to employees, and that was a sensitive topic because imagine you've been doing a job for 10 years, you're really good at it, and suddenly Margit or the Margits of the world come in and this is not needed, this is not needed, this is not needed. So this has to be done with absolute care. But we had to expose those time-wasting activities to make them realize if you let that go, you have so much time for other things. And another Japanese expression from the continuous improvement or CI world is Gemba, which simply put is walking the floor, not just looking at things from behind the computer, but going and talking to the people in the offices and on the shop floor or factory and uncover the blind spots that we haven't seen. This is so simple, but managers, supervisors, sometimes they're so busy with reports, they forget to go out, talk to the employees, and see themselves what are those activities that are needed and not needed. Again, it's not an exhaustive list, but I hope it shows you what from the world of change we could do to mobilize the people to get them ready. It's a lot about urgency by responding to their pain points, mobilizing them actively so they are active and visible sponsors of the change, showing the results to make it tangible, making specific comments about what needs to happen, what needs to start, stop, continue, and also involve people in the ongoing process. This was just one change project, but as I mentioned, I really would like to create a forum that's interactive. So for 7 minutes, I would like to put you into a breakout room if you are able to join and ask you to think of a change that you're working on in whichever workplace you operate. And think about what can you do to boost people's readiness. Remember the 5 levels: awareness, understanding, acceptance, commitment, and endorsement. I would love to hear some stories moving forward. Welcome back. It's wonderful to see the groups engaging so beautifully. Let's have a look at the comments that you've shared on Polav about your tips. The first I see is to move from level 1 to level 2, awareness to understanding, is to start with the why, not what, because as Simon Sinek famously said, people don't buy what you're doing, they buy why you are doing it. The second is at the acceptance level to look for open-minded teams to pilot an idea, to have lighthouse stories, because if you have good stories from within, that's when it's going to help give hope to people. Bosses to regularly talk about it and participate, beautifully put. If we don't get up above to talk about a change positively and even show their face with it, it will take longer to get people's buy-in. Top-down decisions are sometimes clear, but bottom-up is sometimes forgotten. That's very true. Just because from above we get all the directives and plans, it does not mean that understanding what can happen from bottom up, from the root, because that can lead to problems. Management by humiliation is absolutely to avoid. That's true. Bottom-up norming is effective when companies merge, employees working together. Bottom-up, not top-down, is super important. It's a great reminder for us not to just expect the top leadership to do things, but also find the people from the next levels to drive the change. Make messages very clear and being authentic in communication, being clear with what we say, repeating it, so people realize what's going to come and hopefully they will be less anxious about it. Thank you. Let's take a moment or two to listen to some examples from the breakout rooms, what situations you talked about and what your insights were to share with the rest of the participants of this forum.
In our group, we had a lot. We talked a lot about the communication, that the communication should be clear, that you should have a good, clear communication, and that the momentum is very important. Like you said, the why should become in the beginning, and also the person that brings it. That's for executives to bring the why. So we had quite some exchange on that one. Paul gave a good example of what happened in his work environment.
Yeah, I think one of the point I was trying to make is the importance of bottom up commitment, because I was talking about a big merger between my company and other companies, and it was only by getting the employees together and to merge the employees that then the top-down change was possible. Because without doing that bottom-up norming, as I call it, it wouldn't have worked. There was this hostility, should we say, to the other organisation if you didn't do that norming at the employee level. So I've had a good example, also a bad example, based on my experience.
This grassroots movement, what do you think triggered it? So the bottom-up initiative worked.
It was something which was decided was necessary from the get-go. So it was done with all the organisational groups, and we're talking thousands of people. But my personal experience, it was very effective because it got rid of the prejudice that there's this hostile company coming on board, and it was changing everything. So by getting people working together, when the top-down changes were made, it was a lot smoother.
Lovely to hear and also see this exchange going on. Thank you, Mario and Paul. How about the other team? Would you like to share with us examples or some ideas that you really stood out in this forum?
Actually, Stella told us about her real situation at work. She's working with teachers who are, their work is based on the contract, so they're just paid for teaching. And she sees the need of change in the organization. However, she doesn't know how to involve these people because they will be not paid for the time devoted to working on this change.
Very interesting. Stella, what would trigger these people's interest to listen to you and be part of the change?
Just a second, I'm trying to put my... Yeah. The thing is, oh, sorry, I cannot manage to put my camera to work. I'm trying, but so I just speak. So, the thing is, I was going to say when it stopped, when the room stopped working. I think there is another element to it. There is a cultural one, because I live and work in France. And here in France, there is this mentality of doing everything they can not to be explored by the employers or something like that. And so what happens that because we are teachers and only paid by the hour, I work at a university, all the teachers are like that. So there are not fixed contracts with full-time. And so I remember that even for any other meetings that were outside our teaching hours, it was very hard for the manager to get us together. Yeah. And he made some comments sometimes saying that why people do not get involved. And the answer was clear, because if you're not paid to go to extra meetings, we are not going. So there is this idea that if the employer is not paying us to do anything, we are not doing. And the problem is,
I think relatable. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the idea that we had is that because we teach different subjects, but they complement each other. So what I would like is that we could have a program where we could, for example, at the end of it, propose a final project where students would be able to use all the topics they learn from all the different teachers. So we would have to coordinate what we are teaching them for them to have a more holistic approach to the whole thing and not just have this fragmented knowledge. And besides that, there are other things that we could do because we use Teams, we use IT tools. So we could use automation, we could make it easier, even for administrative tasks that we have to do. And I wanted to get at the teachers and explain to them and try to find a way of working together. But because these hours would not be paid, they don't even want to listen. They say, okay, are you invited us for the paid meeting? If it's not, no. So they, and I think it's very much French in the sense that they are always wary of the employer not exploring them. And so I know that there is this why kind of, and I try. What I've been trying is that try to prove that it's better for the students, because normally teachers, they are they like to work with people, they worry about people, they are caring people. So I think that if you do that, thinking about the student and forgetting the employer and the financial motivation, although of course it's important too, I could maybe
Stella,
have them together.
excuse me to interrupt. Is that because the organization don't want to pay for the change?
We are like consultants. We are paid by the hour. So we are there to teach.
The organization will not pay for the commitment to this change. For the meetings, for time they devote.
Yeah, even the meetings, when we
Right.
discuss certain ideas, these meetings is like we are invited for the meetings, but if we don't go, maybe what would be the consequence? Maybe next time, next semester, they're going to put another teacher instead of us because we're not taking part of the meetings, but we are not paid for these meetings. It could be something like that. We are not, we are paid by the hour that we teach.
My question,
So
Stella,
yes, the other thing was trying to persuade the organization to pay for the meetings. Yeah, so there are the two ways. Either persuade the teachers that what we will we will be doing is important for the students, or try to persuade the organization to pay for certain meetings, at least for a few of them. There are these two things I've been thinking of doing and trying already.
and the question, Stella, is it the leadership team?
Yeah.
What is their pain point and what they are willing to give? Mario's question was about compensation for
Yeah.
this, because if your colleagues don't have a strong why or what's in it for me, they will unlikely move a finger. And that's where I know tough dialogues have to happen with the leadership who would like to see this change.
Yeah,
And
on the one hand, and on the second hand, if you need to then push through the change that you decide, you need the leaders and you need the politics and you need especially in I did already a few government assignments. If you don't have the politics with you, the politics and the people that pay the party, then forget it. Then it's nice volunteer work, but you will get frustrated.
In today's session, we've got a couple of professors, Paul, myself included, and we know regardless of which institute you work in, corporate, not governmental or educational sector, you need the top leaders, as Mario said. ProSci, one of the well-acknowledged and recognized change management researching body and association, every 2 years does a benchmarking study, and the number one reason for a project, a change project, to fail or succeed is the presence or lack of active and visible executive sponsorship, which is, as Mario said, the big bosses actively being involved visibly and really putting their stake into the project. I have put together 10 tips and I'd like to share it with you and invite you to think about which one you've done already and which one you can give it a try. Because there's no one answer to the question of how to get the organization ready when you are, but they are not. But I believe these 10 tips can be helpful. The first one is validating the why, as beautifully Stella's case showed it to us. The second one is tuning in and don't push out. It's an expression I thought I would share with you to remind ourselves that we need to listen super carefully on what's holding them back. Maybe it's the lack of compensation. Maybe it's not wanting to let go of a working practice of 10 years, because we need to listen more than selling the change, especially at the phase where we feel that they are not ready. Find your 5% allies. Those are the people who get it. They see, and it might be just 5 out of 10, and it's frustratingly small, I know, but we can scale later. So again, practicing patience and finding the 5%, approximately 5% of stakeholders who want to work with us on that. And that's okay. As talked about the emotional cycle of change, it's normal for people initially to deny. We also do it for certain changes. The fourth one is translating the urgency into impact. Instead of saying there is a fire next door, talk about what outcomes we can get. In the case of Stella's situation, maybe instead of saying we really need to upscale and upgrade and improve, we can talk about how this will impact the students. And Stella, you've started talking about it. Let's see if translating that change into impact on students, impact on the faculty could help you move forward. The fifth one is building momentum, not pressure. I know I feel like pushing people at times towards the change I know would benefit, but we need to build momentum, see which little pendles are already moving and let that take course instead of pushing it, because the more we push, the more they will resist. Let's remember that. The sixth one is go where the energy is. I really thought this is a good food for thought for all of us, because if we start with people and teams who are open to change, that will create the energy momentum we can use to move the pendle here. Next one is show micro wins, quick wins, we could even say, but you can go even smaller, because that will give people hope. And quick wins speak louder than big strategies and blue sky. Can you find a mini win that would help you show people that we are on the right track? The eighth one is use, I don't know how to call it exactly, but it's like a shadow influence. I often talk about influencers being structural and social influencers. Structural influencers are the people who have the power, who have the title, who have the authority. Mobilize them if you can, but look for social influencers, shadow influencers, who, because of their connections with the others, because of their chemistry, they have an ability to influence the way people think. And those can be junior people, people without huge projects, but you notice colleagues who are approached whenever there's a crisis. Find out how they feel about your change and mobilize them if you can't mobilize the big bosses yet. Stay visible but kind. And I wanted to put the but kind there again, because when we are ready and people around us not, we have a natural tendency, let's just move forward, let's just push. But if we push, they're gonna push back. And we should show up without demanding change, inviting them in. And last but not least, recharge and don't resent. And I thought this is a bit of a properly selfish comment. Focus on yourself, recharge your batteries if you feel exhausted, because so many people are pushing back. Pace yourself, because if you start resenting it, it's going to spread through the initiative you know that will be bought into. Again, it's kind of a checklist. See which one you've already done, a tick, and which one maybe you could consider for the specific change that you want to get people ready for. Now, I would invite you to put your comments into the chat about what your biggest takeaways from today's session are. And whilst I'm going to just share a few comments and share a document with you, the one slider I also put in as a PDF. So if you like, you can take that away from today's forum. But I wanted to also offer you, if you feel like collaborating with myself and the team, one way to go deeper into managing resistance is the Change Confident Academy. It's an online course I'm running for 8 weeks on the website with the QR code. You can look at it. Through 8 weeks, people have the chance to access different videos, PowerPoints, workbooks, toolboxes, and I offer weekly group coaching sessions as well, so that we can address specific project challenges that you have. There are a lot of people who've gone through it already. Knowing the participant profile today, those who registered, I just picked 3 of them from the corporate world that have already done it and have seen the impact on it. It's all about implementing one change action tactic at a time and seeing how it can reap its benefits and help you translate ideas into people's acceptance. So just 3 short quotes here. If in the next 3 days you sign up for any of the 3 packages of this program, which offers different things you can see on the website and more readable, then as a bonus in the next 3 days, you will also get additional benefits. 4 workbooks that I've created around urgency, cultural complexity, about stakeholder engagement and visioning. You can get, if you get the Elevate package, then other than the workbooks, I will also give one-on-one coaching sessions. And very importantly, if you go for the master package, you will get included a change specific road mapping that I normally do for my clients to come up with a roadmap that you can implement with your clients. It's an opportunity to collaborate, up to you if you'd like to take. To close it, Stay grounded and keep moving, even if people around you are not yet ready. And find that 5% alliance. Go for micro wins and don't lose hope. Make sure you recharge yourself as well. The Change Confident Academy is an opportunity for us to continue collaborating. I do these forums every 6 to 8 weeks. The next one is going to be on the 20th of November. I will share with you the details. But with a guest speaker, Juliana Wilker, we are going to look at the psychological aspects of emotional intelligence and change. I'm really excited to do this with an expert in the field, an absolutely like-minded leader of change. And I will share with you the steps. And if you'd like, in the next 3 days, you have lots of benefits to learn from. So what I promised to do with you today is looking into why urgency sometimes is not seen by others, create a space to share and reflect on what we can do about it, and give you one practical tool, the 10 tips that I shared with you that hopefully will help you boost the readiness of the people. As a thank you, I'm going to send you the link to my book, Change Matters, which is available on Amazon. I will give you access to the Kindle version as a thank you for being here today, as well as the audiobook version on Spotify. If you'd like to find out what the book is about, listen in or read chapters. This will give you the chance. And I will send you the link as well to the Academy if it's something that resonates with you. To conclude today's session, I would like to use Maya Angelou's comment, quote, which is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So don't push, wait, recharge, and see which microneedles you can move to get more people on board. Thank you very much. I look forward to staying in touch and seeing you at the next forum. Have a lovely rest of the day wherever you are. Bye.